You are listening to We Are the Compassionate Revolution. I'm your podcast host, therapist, author, boundaries guide, Molly Moon. If you are a compassionate person and you want to know your worth, set better boundaries, live from your truth, and operate in your fullness, then I am so glad you've joined us. You ready? Let's get started. I am so happy to introduce you all today to somebody very special to me, dear to my heart, Samuel Ohana, who is coming to us today from the great far north and is a human being who, in my humble opinion, embodies love. So, welcome, Samuel. And would you introduce yourself to listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do? And then we've got some really wonderful things to explore together today. So we'll get into that.
I usually start off with introduction saying that I'm a social worker because I feel like that really is a great sort of general description of my heart, because I love people. I really do. And I like to serve people. I like to serve their future well-being. I like to serve their present experience. And I want good things for everybody. Everybody. So that was my undergrad program. And I didn't actually choose it on purpose. I chose it because it was literally the only major that did not have an algebra requirement. And I tried 2 semesters in a row to pass the basic college algebra class, and I withdrew right before the drop date each time because I was not going to pass that class. I even went to tutoring, which I didn't really enjoy and also still didn't understand. So social work it was, and turns out it was a really great match, and I had no idea that it was going to be such a great match for me.
So cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. I really didn't get the whole world of psychology or anything like that. And I remember feeling the same way, like, are you allowed to do this? Like, this is fun. So funny.
Yes. So aside from that, I am a married person. I love having a partner in life, and I'm a parent, and I have a lot of kids that are both my biologically related and not through marriage either. Sometimes they just like appear, and I'm like, well, I guess you're my kid too now. And for work, I've done almost exclusively nonprofit human services work, and I've had exactly one for-profit job in my whole life, and it was such a different world.
I know that there's so many of us who have that love of the humans. It's like it came in us somehow. It didn't have to be manufactured. It's just there. But then it also is really confusing to live in a world where you see and love the humans, but also the humans hurt you. And I know so many listening can relate. Tell me a little bit about you, Sam, and grappling with that most confusing of things. I love the humans. Not all the humans know how to love.
It's true, they don't, but it's because they weren't. So you can't know something you've never had, or you've only seen talked about in movies in the, I don't know, rather dysfunctional way. Relationships are all very frequently portrayed in movies and TV shows and things. So back in social work school in the 90s, one of the things that they really, really drove home was that every single person is always at any given moment, no matter what is happening, doing the best that they can do. Even if maybe they later regret it, or it's hurtful to other people or hurtful to themselves, like in that moment, in the emotional space that they were in, with all of the understanding, knowledge, and capacities and understandings of priorities, at the time, that was their best. And so I hold that. And there was a time in my life when I was just starting out in my career, sort of, and I was like, I am having a hard time with that. And I asked myself, like, how do you see that when people do stuff that I really don't like? I think is really not okay to do to other people. At the time, my oldest son was like 3 or 4, and he would get into stuff and he would do things that I'd be like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? But he was my child, so I would remember him as an even younger, more innocent age and think, okay, well, he had no idea what was going to happen after he did that one thing that he just did. And then I realized that everybody was much younger at some point. And then I realized that everybody starts off as a perfect, innocent, unblemished being. And everything that happens after that point cannot ever take away that moment of perfect humanity that they were born into. And so I can always find love because everybody still has that within them. So I may absolutely can't stand whatever somebody is doing or has done. And also, like, that piece of their humanity, it always remains intact.
It's the beautiful both and. This is how this person's showing up, and I need to set my boundaries accordingly. And it doesn't define who they are in their essence. And I love imagining it's me. The newborn thing does it for me too every single time. I like imagine them as a newborn. That's probably the closest my human brain can get to understanding the essence of that human. Like, can you say they're evil? No.
Their actions, maybe, the things that they may have done and the impact that they may have had on others. Yeah, absolutely. You can't deny that hateful, hurtful things come from human behavior and human choices.
That's a gift that social work gives us, though, or the way that social workers are trained to think in terms of systems instead of just individuals. And so then the question is, what happened? And it's such a valuable question. It doesn't take away individual responsibility either. There's a place for that. But there's also that place, I think it's a gift social work gives us. What happened to this person? What are the systems this person, this little newborn had to operate in? The systems, the conditioning, the beliefs, all those things. What would cause an incredible, sweet little newborn to become this in their outward presentation? And it really helps us get more into what like actual solutions instead of band-aid solutions and blaming everything only on the individual.
I think those things happen early on. I think that there's the way that attachment comes in and impacts people. So, from the very, very beginning, if a baby doesn't have somebody to listen to them and to sit with them and really know them and respond to them, they're not able to form their closeness and feel safe in the world. And so they will withdraw, they will pull away, and that will shape the rest of their lives.
I'm glad that you brought up attachment because attachment work has a special place in your heart with the work that you do now, as well as we've talked before about how discovering the big wide world of attachment work and understanding attachment styles and understanding how to heal attachment styles has actually played a really important part in your own healing and growth.
Once I learned about attachment styles and how they show up in adults and how you can sort of like walk backwards from where you are as an adult to where you started as a child and the things that impacted your life, it's suddenly like seeing the code written behind the program, and it felt like being in the matrix. Like I feel like I suddenly understood everybody. Everybody. And so I'll watch things on TV. I'll watch people have like a fight in their marriage. And I'm like, if you just stop and listen to what your person is saying and reflect back what you heard versus interpreting it and then reacting, this would all go away. There would be no show.
therapists watching shows with couples,
Oh my
it's hard
gosh.
to even relax. You're like,
I know.
"Ooh, that was a really good bid for attention. I like how you met that." So funny.
Yeah, like, do you really wish that your partner had heard you say that this wasn't okay with them?
Oh my gosh. Ugh. I would love it if you for anybody who's listening who's like, "Okay, wait, attachment styles, what?" I feel like there's so many different ways to come home to ourselves. Once we get hungry and look for our healing and growth, doors open up. People appear, trainings appear, classes appear, therapists appear. It's so cool how that works. And to a thing that appeared that ended up being so impactful was attachment work. Will you share a little bit about that for anybody else who might be resonating and going, "What'd you do?"
Sure. My children were at a Waldorf-inspired school, and they had a trainer coming one weekend and offering a free class to anybody who wanted to participate. And so I'm all for free classes, and I'd never heard of nonviolent communication. And I was like, well, let's see what this is. And so we went. And at first, I was a little bit skeptical. And then started realizing, oh, this is really interesting. Like, wow, I suddenly feel like I understand people better just from this one class where they were talking about, having feelings and feelings not being judged. And I was like, this is different for me. And I had previously experienced what it was like to move through the world with less judgment about yourself and about other people. And I found it in like a much preferred way to be. Like I got a lot of that from social work school. I really love social workers. Like truly, that is my field. But letting people be how they are and have the feelings that they have. And so suddenly I started feeling like I understood people a lot more. And I was like, this is my thing. I finally found my thing. And somebody's already created it. What a gift. And I don't have to create it. I can just start from here. Perfect. Because I had this sense of this is important, but I didn't know where else to look for more of that stuff. So if that lands for anybody, it's called nonviolent communication or NVC, and it's got a whole big world of that if you care to look. But most notably, after that, I went to so the Center for Nonviolent Communication has something called an IIT, which is an international intensive training. And so it's 9 days of a residential, it's kind of like a sleepaway camp for grown-ups. They do have them for families that includes kids too. So I went to this and it was on Maui, and that's where I fell in love with Maui. And being in a place of intentionally created community for 9 full days is life changing in a way that you wouldn't be able to imagine if you haven't gone. Because you're with people and surrounded by 24/7 people who are striving to be their best, to be present, to be in touch with themselves, available to connect with other people, or to be clear that they're not available, but it has nothing to do with the other person. It's within themselves, right? And so it sort of gets into you that, oh, this is something that we could actively choose. We could actively go through the rest of our lives choosing this way. And that's the message that I got from that 9 days. And during that 9 day training, I met one of the people who was a featured trainer there. And her name is Sarah Payton. And she does a lot of teaching about neuroscience and interpersonal neurobiology. And so that means how your brain and other people's brains interact with each other. And from there, I learned about attachment and attachment patterns. So there are 3/4 attachment patterns. The three is the ones that most people might be a little familiar with. The first, secure attachment, and that is where you feel safe with the other person feels safe with you, and you're able to share with each other. And if something goes sideways, you notice, oh my gosh, like I see that what I just said really hurt your feelings, and I did not intend for that to happen. Like, are you okay? Like, what can I do? Like, but you're able to make a repair. And then there are two forms of insecure attachment, and one could be described as being a little more like cold or softly detached, and that would be insecure avoidant. And so that's where if your life is one circle and let's say your parents' life is another circle, in secure attachment, there's a little bit of overlap where, both people share some of the reality and still retain their personhood independently of the other person, but they're connected. And in avoidant attachment, there's a lot of separation where maybe the circles are separated by a bit, or maybe they're just barely, barely touching, but there's not that warm overlap where this is our space. So it's just a little cool. And then on the other side of insecure attachment is ambivalent, anxious attachment. And that's where each person's circle overlaps kind of a lot, and so there's more space for the we than there is for the I of either person. And that doesn't allow a lot of movement or independence. And there's a lot of confusion in who's actually got the feeling right now. Is it you or me or both? Or if you're feeling happy, I'm happy. And if you're sad, I'm sad. Um, and so the fourth type is sort of a more extreme version of the two insecure attachments. So in a disorganized attachment pattern, that's when life has been too unpredictable to feel safe in basically any realm. And so for somebody who has an insecure, avoidant attachment pattern that has gone into the disorganized, which is kind of at the extreme side, that's when there isn't connection. Like that this person and this other person, they are just sort of moving sort of independently of each other and they don't connect and there's not really a we. That may be where you get neglect in a parent and child relationship, and there's just not the interest and the attention and the attentiveness and the care and the back and forth that you would get with a secure relationship.
They're kinda, like, baked into the cake in the sense that it's like the computer is programmed to this, but you didn't even know you were being programmed. It's just the little person is in the world, and this is how the world works, and this is how the closest relationships works. This is the blueprint for how to people. This is what it means
Right.
to be me, this is what it means to be in a relationship. I think we get out there into the big wide world, we fall in love, and we assume that this way we want to bond is the way, or we are hoping maybe these needs can be met this way, but we end up trying to bond and meet these relational needs that A, never got met in the first place, and then B, the ways that make sense to our brain to meet those needs are actually not going to result in the meeting of those needs.
It's true. And it leads to so much pain, like so much pain, because you don't understand. So you have no idea what's happening, that you can't meet your needs. All you know is that everything you're trying is ending up not where you wanted it to go.
Going all the way back to what you said, the human is doing the best they can with what they know
Right.
doesn't work. It's like wrong tools for the wrong, like all the wrong stuff. Are equipped with all the stuff that can't do it. And yet those are the only tools we know. And they feel, I think, with the part that's so confusing, speaking as a human and speaking as someone who loves the humans, it's so confusing when you have a, I don't know if faulty is the right word, but I'll use it for now. Faulty attachment programming, because it's not like it's anyone's fault. Nobody's trying to do it generally. It just, but it is faulty. It is not going to grow and nurture safe, secure, healthy love. And yet you're using this thing that will feel like common sense. It feels like the other person should know what you need. It feels like this is the way you do love. Why can't you cooperate? with the person who's on the other side of you, maybe even a healthy person who has secure attachment who's on the other side who's like, "Yeah, no, that's not gonna fly."
Yeah, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but it feels like, well, duh, don't you know? This is common sense, whether it's anxious or whatever way that you're showing up. It's a tricky one, I think, to heal until you finally know it's there in the first place and that it's not your fault and that there is a way. There is a way. We can work with this. It's not actually baked into the cake. It's baked into the cake for as long as you don't know it's there.
I agree. It's one of those things that it's the water that you're in, it's the air that you're breathing, and you how could you know? This attachment starts to form when you're preverbal. So it's going into your mind and your body as a blueprint of the way things go. This is the pattern, and like I'm just following the pattern that I have literally experienced in maybe most of my life. So how on earth could you otherwise get out if you don't know where you are? You can't change where you are. I just want to mention that the last form of the disorganized attachment goes to the other side, whereas one side is like really frosty and cool, and everybody's sort of separated and sort of existing unto themselves, and there's not a we. And on the other side of that is the anxious, ambivalent, insecure attachment. And when it goes like to the extreme side of that, then that's where, here's my bubble, and let's say here's my mother. And that's when it crosses over, and there's almost complete overlap where there is not just like, I'm happy, so you must be happy, or if you're angry, then I must be angry. It's I'm angry because of you, and I'm mad because of you, and I'm sad because of you. And that is not necessarily why. Because little kids always and can only be expected to see themselves as the cause, right? They do have no idea of attachment patterns and interpersonal dynamics and things like that. So children internalize that this is my fault. Whatever is happening, they must have, because that's the only thing they can control. It must have been me. I must be unlovable. I must be too much. I must be not enough. If I could be different, you would love me. And then we carry these patterns into our adult lives, and then we play them out with every single person in some way that comes into our life after that point. So that's our teachers, and that's our professors, and that's our girlfriends and boyfriends and spouses and partners and children, maybe students, coworkers, friends. It's there. And if that's our base pattern, we are going to sort of operate as if it were other people's base pattern, because how would we know it's not?
And it's not fair, and our world doesn't change till we all start finding ways to begin healing this in ourselves. It's not fair, it's not like we asked for it, it's not like you went and looked
Right.
at it. You literally have no control over it. The people parenting most of us also didn't have it, depending on one's lineage. Many times there's a long, long, long line of great pain, humans trying to survive, passing on terrible tools for relationship, but they're the best ones that that particular ancestral line found. So you can't receive secure attachment from someone who also didn't receive secure attachment and doesn't even know that exists and has no opportunity to get any healing or help. So for many of us listening and ourselves, like in some ways we're the first ones in the line who can say, wait, what's happening? Why? And how do I begin to shift this? Because it doesn't change in the world. Even though it's not our fault and even though it's not fair. I love us not glorifying being a cycle breaker, but at the same time taking up the mantle when we are able to, when we have the capacity to, and starting it or continuing. Maybe our parents did what they could do for some. Now we're going to go ahead, pick it up, take it a little bit further. But slowly we're going to create change because I'm thinking here, how the micro is the macro. I'm thinking of this. We have this problem for us as humans in our little individual spheres. But I mean, dominant Western culture. in the macro, if we were to step back and look at what is the attachment style of dominant Western culture, I'm not really sure, but I definitely say it's not secure attachment.
I don't think it is either. I think it's at its most benign, it's rather avoidant. And at its most hurtful, it falls into the too hot to the point of obliteration, where we have so much rage and anger toward a category of people or toward certain people because we see that and we come to believe that they are the cause of what's wrong for us, of what's hard for us, of, because how could they know any different? They've only ever been taught blame, and the left hemisphere of our brains really likes to ascribe blame. It likes everything to have a cause that we know what the cause is. So if we don't know the cause of something, like why did I step on a tack or something like that, random chaos theory doesn't give us any sense of control. So just the tack appearing on the floor, falling off of a shelf or something, right? Must be someone's fault. And if it's someone's fault, I can be mad at that person and they will make sure that there are no more tacks on the floor, even if they may not be the person who hung up the thing, or maybe the drywall was like, I don't know, maybe it was like a joint or something and the pin went in the place that's not going to hold it very tightly. May not have been their fault, but as long as we can say it was Joe's fault that I stepped on the tack, we feel calmer inside.
Yeah. Spreading chaos, but we have helped ourselves uh, enjoy a brain chemistry of peace, justice, all is right in the world. And boy, isn't that sum up a whole lot of what happens at the worst of it? There's destruction, annihilation, harm all around us, but we feel better.
Yeah. And on the other side of being too separate and too cold to each other, it's, well, I worked to get my money so that I could buy the things I want. If you didn't have the money to build things you wanted, then that's because you didn't work hard enough. So we are existent to ourselves and think, well, if we've made it, then that's because we are better and we are good. It doesn't stop for a second to stop and think, like, maybe these people didn't make it for reasons that weren't, under their direct control.
Hey, my friends. I firmly believe that the common struggles we compassionate people face are often doorways, pointing us to the hidden beliefs that so many times keep us stuck. So if overgiving or people-pleasing or guilt around boundaries has been holding you back, I created something to help. It's called the Boundaries Breakthrough Mini Course, and right now, it's totally free. So if you feel the tug to grow in your boundaries journey, this is for you. You can start today at boundary.com/breakthrough. And if you're interested in coming to work with me more closely, the mini course is a wonderful way to dip your toe in the water, get some real help, and if you want to continue with me after that, then cool. I would love that. Boundary.com/breakthrough. It's really good stuff. Have fun. It's like those in power in this dominant Western culture, and I just use that word for kind of lack of a better word. Honestly, you know what I often think about is for any old Star Trek Next Generation geeks like me, I always think about the Borg as a dominant. There's many good things. I'm not a hater of our culture by any means, but it's the attitude and paradigm by which dominant Western culture comes in and takes over that reminds me so much of the Borg, because here's all these beautiful, amazing, wonderful varieties and ways of existing. We go to sci-fi, Star Trek, and yet here comes this group, for those of you who don't know about the Borg, they kind of come in and sort of take over and assimilate. It's assimilation, assimilation, assimilation until everybody's kind of the same in all the spice and color and variety, and differences are gone. And it works, I guess. But would you call it living? No. And when we think of dominant Western culture, we have incredibly high amounts of depression and anxiety, incredibly high amounts of addiction, incredibly high amounts of disease, incredibly high. The humans living in dominant culture are stressed. We might have cool stuff with wealth inequalities, that is, if you happen to be on the side of wealth inequality where you get the cool stuff. But we're miserable. We are not happy as a species living this way. Something's very, very wrong. And in dominant Western culture, there's people and groups that get picked on, that get scapegoated, that are the problem, just like what you're saying with that attachment style. There's a, I'm uncomfortable. Who's to blame? Who can I take it out on? Who can I attack? We're seeing a lot of that in our culture right now. And we're also seeing that in a group that you're part of. I don't know. I don't even know what my question is, but the floor is open because there's so many different places we could go. But
It's such a deep topic, and it covers a lot of human history. And Molly, I have not gone and made myself a historian at all. But just from the history that I have learned and have read about, is that it seems that there are times that the societies have become unhealthy in a way that results in there being a lot of personal dissatisfaction and unease. Kind of like how you mentioned that we have these really high rates of depression and anxiety and, illness and otherwise misery. And when people hit a certain point, they don't want it anymore. And so if they're looking for a way out and somebody says, "Hey, it's those folks over there, those one. It's their fault. And this is why." Then the people who are feeling desperate and sad and unhappy and dissatisfied with life and whatever it's brought, it's so much easier to blame an enemy that you are not a part of that group. It's easier to see them in a dehumanized manner because it makes it easier to let them be the scapegoat and take the fall and be the blame. And then it brings them ease, and they also feel like they're doing something, and that's in air quotes, because that's just how the brain works. If we think, oh, it's, I'm cold because there's snow outside, well, I'm going to stay inside and I'm going to stay warm because that's snow. Well, I guess it's the snow, but really it's the air temperature.
I like how you say that because it feels like a solution to this discomfort is being enacted when the powers that be say it's these people's fault. They did it. First of all, that doesn't work on anybody who has a dear friend, coworker, partner who fits into that group. But as long as you are insulated from anybody in that group being in your close vicinity, it can work, which is usually why, historically speaking, it tends to be groups of people who are disempowered or don't have quite the same level of human rights or opportunity to have human rights as everybody else. I mean, it's been done to women, for example, for centuries and centuries. Women are generally half-ish of the population. That's a pretty large group. However, completely systematically disempowered, so it's still easy to do, because women had no power to change that. Now we see groups being picked on who, historically speaking, and even up to now, have way less representation in the halls of power, have way less opportunities to have a voice because smaller groups, less positions of privilege. So it's kind of it's easier to use those groups as a scapegoat.
True. If you're living in a town that is mostly made up of people who would fit the category of being white Christian folks, and there's a very fair chance in some towns that they've never met a person who is, let's say, Muslim and wears, the headdress or whatever, or a Sikh who wears something sort of similar, more like a turban. But if you've never met somebody and people are telling you those people are the bad ones, those are the people who are messing everything up for us, why would you not believe it? I mean, it kind of fits in with what's easy to believe.
Especially if you trust that leader, then you have no reason to question.
And if the leader of that group is a member of your white Christian town, I mean, all the more reason to be like, well, obviously we're aligned, right? So I'm just going to believe what this person's saying. And so I personally don't like having only one or two choices of anything really, Molly. Honestly, like if I go to the froyo shop and they've only got like one flavor, I'm gonna be like, hmm, I like having choice. I want the sour fruity yogurt or froyo, you know. But one of my kids almost always chooses something that would be compatible with like chocolatey, sweeter kind of things. I would not be happy in their favorite froyo shop if it only had that, and they wouldn't be happy in mine. I want everything to choose from because occasionally I may choose the chocolate of adjacent flavors, which typically like the sour mango and sour raspberry is like kind of a
It's
clash
so
with the,
true because it's fun. It's fun and interesting. I
yeah,
think it's like, yeah, it's so good to compare it to food because who wants to go to a restaurant over and over where there's only one dish? That dish might be badass, that dish might be amazing, but you're not gonna go very often. The frozen
right,
yogurt shops would all shut down if there was one flavor, no toppings. They wouldn't exist. It's not, and we look outside at nature and the variety. It's so damn cool from the small to the big. It's so cool. This whole world is full of variety and abundance. But we've been, I think, in that fear-based mentality back kind of to the attachment theory, my macroing attachment theory. Secure attachment is so rooted in love. There's room for fear, there's room for problems, but you bring it back to the safety and the stability of love every time. Secure, solid. And in all of the other attachment styles, there's fear. There's literally is fear. Whether I'm avoiding you or I'm clinging to you, I'm afraid, which is why I'm doing that. I don't feel secure. And as we macro that out, what is the energy behind this? Attack this group, attack that group. They did it. Why so much propaganda? Why so many lies? There's just such a fear and it grabs our human brains and it sucks us right into that primal fight, flight, freeze, fawn where we're ready to other a people group that's actually part like you just othered the rainbow sprinkles right out of the yogurt stand. Like that
yes,
we don't realize we as a human are one species as a collective. We're hurting ourselves as a collective to try to stamp out diversity. Even our own bodies are wild and wonderful. There's so much diversity in our own body. How could we think that the collective isn't supposed to have diversity? How could we think that? Why do we attack it?
that's such a good question. I mean, as far as like diversity in people and bodies, like there's people who are born with their organs mirror image reversed inside. And many of them are not, it's not ever caught just because we don't do like full x-rays and cat scans on people's bodies. But wow, you just never know like what kind of variety exists.
It's true. I knew a gal who, found out she had 2 uteruses, and the only reason she found out, she was having a problem and went in and had a little thing, and they're like, sit down. We're gonna chat." There's a thing
That
we
is so cool.
she even had a baby. Yeah.
I love diversity, but like I said, I'm the one that I need a lot of flavors at my froyo shop, and I prefer a wide variety of fresh and delicious toppings to put on it too. And you're absolutely right. Like there's a restaurant in town that my wife and I love. Every dish we've ever had is delicious and amazing, and we've eaten there a lot. We even got married there 10 years ago.
Oh, that's so cool.
But sometimes we feel like even though it's never a disappointment, we just want something different. Even if we adore it consistently, still variety, variety, variety. Like, and learning to listen to like what is it that you want and what is it that you like and finding the things. Like, I think there's lots of times that, especially when we're young and growing up, and we may start to think about those things and think like, oh, well, how interesting that is of that person. I'm like this way. And for sometimes for kids will say things like that and people will they'll get a response like, "Well, isn't that great? You're going to grow up to be an amazing dancer or hunter or I don't know, concrete worker. And sometimes kids say, "This is me and this is what I like." And they get the response of, "Well, now you're no longer part of our family. So bye, get your shit." So how can people have a sense of safety in the world when even at their most sweetest and innocent and most vulnerable ages, they get the message that what you like or who you are is fully unwelcome or unacceptable. Like, I don't care that you like variety, or I don't care that you have a preference of, chocolate versus, sour mango. This is what you're supposed to like. Our family only likes chocolate.
And what does that say about your love and actual acceptance and approval? What does that teach the kid? Because kids learn not so much through words, but the actual behaviors. And if I'm your kid, but I know that as soon as I tell you I am this way or that way, I'm out of the family, you can tell me that you love me all you want. You can include me in all the family things that you want to. I always know I'm actually not in. Working with LGBTQ plus youth, it's so hard when a family does not believe that it's okay, for example, to be gay. You actually have to help that kid hide that for a time, if possible, so that they can stay safe until they can get the age and ability to be able to get out of the house with in some sort of semblance of safety and provide for themselves, because as soon as those parents know that, they're out. And
Yeah.
it's such a, what does that say about love? What does that say about, that's not secure attachment. That is not acceptance. That's not love. I really love the idea of taking attachment theory and looking at it in a macro way. And for me, instead of using the words attachment, I use the word boundaried. It's very, very similar. The actual boundaries of being a human versus the programming we've been given. But we as a collective must move into the energy of secure attachment in order to build this world that we want. What a world could be built if there was a critical mass of humans who are moving into a state of understanding themselves and others from the vantage point of secure attachment. So many things wouldn't even be allowed that right now are happening, happening so easily right now. We wouldn't tolerate in 2 seconds, because healthy, loving, secure attachment doesn't sign off on abuse. And it doesn't sign off on abuse of vulnerable people, or scapegoating vulnerable people groups. It just wouldn't happen. It couldn't happen.
One of the things that I think is important to keep in mind is that for people who have a, let's say, a base attachment of one of the insecure types, is that a secure person who comes around, that their interactions are going to feel strange. They're going to feel unfamiliar. They're going to feel possibly uncomfortable, or you maybe met with suspicion, like, why are you being nice to me? What do you want from me? Like, or this isn't real, because people don't actually act like this or feel like this. So if you're telling me that you care about me and you're not expecting anything from me, or I don't need to change to please you, there's nowhere for me to put that. Like, so if I happen to be somebody who's like maybe going to internalize more, I may just disregard everything about that and sort of, I don't know, toss it in a laundry basket, of, a virtual one in my mind, because I can't handle it. Or if I'm somebody who externalizes more, I may respond with like, I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, or like, that person's manipulative. Like, I'm just going to ghost them.
You run a gender expansive group. Would you share a little bit about that, why it's near and dear to your heart, and what it's like to be a gender expansive person right now at this time?
It's unsurprisingly more stressful than than usual. Um, so about 12 years ago, I think, I thought I had finally got myself to a good situation in life. I was like, okay, so I've left my abusive ex. My young kids and I are finally in like safe housing, and I had a job that I really enjoyed and a really like quality, safe, happy place for my kids to go in the day. So good school, good childcare center. And I was like going through my clothes and like choosing like what I was going to wear the next day. And I was like, hate that, hate that, hate that. And I was like, wait a second, hold up here. Like, I've had this place and this closet and these clothes, and like, why do I hate everything in my closet? Like, why are you wearing clothes you hate? Like, you are free. And then I was like, oh, well, if I were free, what would I want to wear? And I was like, oh God, fuck. And then I was like, felt like in movies they do this thing where they zoom out suddenly and the person gets like far away and the whole world seems like it's like swallowing you up, and that's what it kind of felt like. And I was like, oh. And then I remembered being a teenager and sneaking off, to the mall and buying men's clothes and changing and feeling like I could finally walk around and feel happy. And I was like, oh, that actually meant something a lot more than I thought it did. So I realized in that space of like probably a week or two that I was just sort of sitting with like, well, I hate my clothes, and now that I know why I hate my clothes, because they're girl clothes, and I didn't want to wear girl clothes because I'm not a girl, and I didn't feel comfortable, and I felt weird, and I was like, why are you choosing this? And I was like, because other people expect that this is what I would choose, and I was like, well, that's a fucked up way to live. So then feeling like, oh my God, I felt like there was a spotlight on me, and I parked at like the Kohl's department store, and I at a very unpopular hour of like, I don't know, it was like 10 in the morning or something, when nobody was there except the people who were like putting stuff away and being like, oh my God, you're here early. And so I was like skulking through the men's department, looking at t-shirts, trying to find something that was like sort of maybe a bridge between like not super like, "Hey, then, give me some construction stuff," and like, just wanting something kind of neutral. I was like, where's the middle ground here? So I grabbed a couple of t-shirts and checked out, and I felt like there was a spotlight on me the whole time following me. And then I got home and I put the t-shirts on. I was like, oh, that feels actually pretty good. Oh, fuck. I'm going to ruin my kids' lives, but I can't not know this now.
I can't not be who I am.
Yeah. And so it was like this whole moment of suddenly realizing that who I was trying to be, which was not me, was making me very, very miserable. So I decided to be me. And my whole life got better almost instantly because I suddenly felt that I didn't have to lie about anything anymore. So I realized that being honest about things that, I wouldn't have thought about, like what I thought or felt before, I suddenly couldn't help it. I was like, but no, but this is the way out. Like a friend of mine who didn't have kids of her own at the time, but really loved Halloween, asked if she could take my kids trick or treating. And they were like 4 and 6. And I was like, sure, that sounds great. And, I told my kids, and they were actually, surprised to me, sad because their friend had invited them to go do a trick or treat party at their friend's house. And I was like, oh crap, I already told my other friend that she could take you. And I was like trying to figure it out. What should I do? What should I say? And I was like, wait, stop. Just tell her the truth. Hey, Angel, I'm really sorry. I didn't have any idea that my 4 and 6-year-old were going to have preferences as to how their Halloween went. And I know I already told you yes, but their answer was no, and I feel like I have to honor that for them, and I'm really sorry that your Halloween is now going to be, not with the happy one that you'd pictured. And so I apologize, but I realized I was wrong. I didn't think to take my kids into consideration this young, but they clearly had a wish. And so she was able to hear that. I could tell she was a little surprised, but she was also able to recover, and she's still my friend, and it's been like 11 years. So it didn't ruin things like I was afraid it would. And finding like my truth made the biggest difference to my life that you could ever imagine. And if I hadn't stood in front of my closet and been brave enough to ask myself, why do you hate every single item hanging up in here, I would never be able to have learned everything I am and be who I am today, which is the real me.
And it is. You do show up as you, and it's powerful. I know you don't always know that because you're busy focusing on everyone else, but It's powerful. Just love just radiates off of you.
And it's so crucial to be true to yourself and to be who you are, like in a way that I can't explain. So finding that true answer and being able to express it will make the same difference for every single person if they're able to stop. It doesn't mean that you have to be a gender expansive person. It means that you need to listen to your inner voice and like listen to the feelings in there and be okay with that.
Because you won't be a gender expansive person if you're not.
Exactly. I can't tell you, Molly, you're a man, and you'd be like, the fuck? No.
I know
Thank you, but
it's
no.
that's part of that fear programming, like, if you allow this in other people, it's going to happen to all of your children and to you and blah, 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 blah. Well, and part of that just comes straight from hate, but no, I'll tell you what, if we are allowed to be who we are, this whole entire world will change exactly as you said, in those small, subtle ways, and sometimes in much bigger ways, but we'll be living according to our truth and we'll make a whole better world. We'll be the yogurt shop with all the choices and a bunch of
Yeah.
flavors of yogurt too.
And it's come on in, like all of my flavors. Like I want everybody to like all the flavors or at least be glad there's a choice of flavors. Like I want to appeal to the ones that like chocolate, the ones that like the sour, and the ones that want plain old sweet cream without even vanilla. It's just cream and sugar and it's happiness in a cup. Happy for that. Right? Love it.
Who's the person, and I can't remember the name, Alok?
Alok Vaidmenon,
Thank you. Something with a V. I can't remember. Comedian, I think.
comedian, public speaker, activist, and someone who really rejects the idea that there is actually a gender binary because there isn't, scientifically, not from opinion, and is like, hey, we're all building this prison, but we'd all actually be better off if we didn't build the prison and instead just like figured out what we like and who we are and spoke from that place.
I'm sure there's many powerful things about Alok's message, but that's something, I mean, as someone working with compassionate people who we by and large shrink ourselves down because of our programming to not piss anyone off, cause any conflict, take up space from somebody else who might want the space, blah, 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 while we're doing a whole bunch of good and then we burn out and never actually become ourselves in this world. And yet we're these incredible powerhouses even with all that programming underneath it, we're these incredible powerhouses who generally tend to do a lot of good in the world. And that, it's almost like that's with two hands tied behind our back and our mouths taped shut. Like, imagine if we came into ourselves and into our power, what would happen in this world? And I love that about Loke's message that why do you think it's not okay to be transgender? Why do you think it's not okay to be gender expansive? Why do you think they fight so hard against this very, very, very small minority of the humans who are just trying to mind their own business, live their own lives. Because if this small group is allowed to be who they are, that means everybody could. The gender expansive person is almost like standing in the gap saying, hey, y'all, what if we just were who we are? And that is literally so subversive, so potentially revolutionary in to the programming that keeps us all in lockstep to dominant culture. I kind of agree with Alok. There's a reason this is getting attacked. There's a reason this group is getting attacked.
It's true because it feels threatening. Because if someone hasn't ever been allowed to express their truth, to feel their truth, to see their truth, to say this is the things I like or the people I'm attracted to or the I don't know, topics I'm drawn to just of interest, then it's not okay for anybody else to get that because it causes a death inside the self. And so if somebody has had to kill part of themselves to be able to survive and to be part of their family group or their cultural group or whatever it is, then to see someone else be able to do what they were never allowed to do, then they have to face their own grief and their own mourning. And that's overwhelmingly painful. So rather than do that, they'd rather silence the other group because then at least we're all suffering. But it's something that we have control over. We don't have to suffer that. We don't have to cause that. If a child being a really little kid says, I'm this and this is what I like, if instead of being met with correction of no, you're not, you're blank and you like blank, we say, oh, okay, you're a boy and you really like orange clothes. Fantastic. Now the kid can come back later and say, actually, I was thinking about it. Like maybe I'm not a boy. Okay, great. Like
How I like this.
okay, cool. Eventually, kids settle on what they do or don't like, or they realize I like it all and I can have it all. Why shouldn't I have it all? Why shouldn't they? They can like pink and blue and green and yellow and purple and black. Fantastic. Wear all of the colors. You only like black, only wear black. No big deal. You only like pink, only wear pink. It can be okay. We're putting this judgment and all of this meaning on stuff that if we take a deep breath and look at what is it actually, maybe it's actually all okay.
Yeah. So many indigenous groups all around the globe, all through history, all through time, had so many different ways of allowing humans to be humans and celebrating it, seeing diversity as perfectly normal and natural. So it's been done. It's been done many times in many different ways. There's a lot of ways to do a yogurt shop. But
Yes.
what can people like me do to help love, honor, and support my transgender, my gender expansive, my LGBTQ plus brothers, sisters, siblings? What do the rest of us do to help support those who are currently under attack?
I think it's kind of the same thing that they encourage people to do if you hear people make racial slurs or other things like that is to stop and be like, "Hey, that's not okay for me. Like that's hurtful to someone I love." I've been to a few trainings on sort of messaging and activism, and really one of the most powerful statements and counter statements that they offered us to consider using was to that saying that, hey, the thing that you just said right there about trans people or gender expansive people or black people or whatever it is really hurtful and I'm not comfortable with it. It hurts someone that I love and care about, and I don't agree with what you're saying. And you can offer the person understanding, like, I understand being uncomfortable and I'm open to talking about it. Um,
But I don't like that.
yeah, really don't like that. Or I'm not okay with that. It kind of depends on what direction that you want to go. But offering like I can understand like when you're expecting one thing and it's something different. It's sometimes hard to accept new things or to be presented with new things or different information. And I can see being uncomfortable with that. Sometimes we are uncomfortable with information that we get that is very different than anything we've ever heard before. And these people are kind of amazing. So, let's talk.
You know what is so cool about that is that from what we know from research, and I'm not going to know who to quote or where I saw this, but there was somebody did some research on marriage being allowed for gay people, right? And what caused the social tide to turn. And there were a lot of scholars saying, you know what it was? It was all of those gay and lesbian people coming out. And that was scary. All coming out of the closet and potentially literally losing your job, losing your television show. I mean, it was not safe to come out, but it was all these people coming out. And then what that did is in the general public, suddenly, quote, quote, gay and lesbian people aren't these unknown figures that are easy to propagandize. The general public suddenly said, that's my sister. That's my
Hmm.
coworker. That's a kid I went to school with. And now there is a face to put with this label. And suddenly the rhetoric that was hateful didn't work anymore. So it's this really interesting combination of the incredible bravery and courage of the folks who came out of the closet And then that created a synergistic movement. So basically what you're saying is so true, because somebody can make some sort of a slur, say some sort of a thing, but when I, who have privilege and could remain comfortable and could stay out of conflict at this moment and don't like rocking the boat, when I say, "I don't like that you said that," that makes me really uncomfortable, because when you say that, I immediately think of people I know and love dearly. I would never want to have them hear what you said. It doesn't represent them at all. It's uncomfortable to do when you're in a place of privilege and you could actually just not rock the boat. But it's integral. That's the work right there that actually changes culture.
The courage. The courage of people to say, I recognize that it is very risky to me to be myself, and I would prefer that to the slow suffering and silent death of who I am and who I was going to be.
And it's such a cool thought. Our fellow humans are having the guts to step into who they are in a way that really rocks the boat in this culture. In a culture that is very strong, pink, blue, pink, blue, pink, blue, that is all there is, forever the end. It is very, very, it takes a lot of bravery and courage to be a person who doesn't fit into pink, blue narratives and to actually step out and be oneself. And I think that's where the rest of us, we come along and join hands and we say, I see you. I got you. I'm here for the whole yogurt. I'm here for all the yogurt and all the sprinkles. And it is okay. And I stand with you. And together we create a tide that can't not change things. But for right now, I also love you. I wish you safety, because I also know it's a bit of a shit show right now for the gender expansive community. It's hard to help that nervous system feel safe when the nervous system is like, dude, we're not actually safe though. So
It's true. It's true. There's some days I just break down. I'm like, it just feels overwhelming. Like I'm convinced that, I don't know, a firing squad is going to show up outside my house and just kill me in front of my family. Like that is what it feels like some days. And so sitting with the thought of, do I leave this country? Do I leave my community? Do I stay and fight? Do I risk myself? Can I do more good here dying? Could I do more good being gone, away, living and trying to make it better from afar? I don't know. I really don't know the answer. Like some days it leans this way, some days it leans that way, but I don't actually want to leave. I want to just have my life and do the things that I'm doing that result in more positive, happy lives for others. Like that makes me happy, and that's what I want to continue. Like I don't want to be like absurdly wealthy and just, hoard my money all around me, and I just want to be part of my community, and I want my community to have a good life, and my community is everybody I'm around, regardless of whatever else that means. That means my neighbor, that means like the high school down the road, that means the church across, a couple blocks away. Like everybody, I want everybody to have like heat and healthcare and food and clean water and fresh air and to feel safe and wanted and welcome whatever it is they're doing. Like that's how we have a good society.
I want to help create a world where the Sams of this world are free to be their badass balls of love. Words don't really do you justice, but thank you for still being here, first of all. Probably safe to say there are many times you might not have wanted to be. Thanks for staying. And by being you, just being an organic example of how humaning can be done and what we can grow in this world. It's been an honor to talk with you.
Thanks, Molly. It was an honor.
My compassionate friend, I am so glad you're with us. We are the compassionate revolution. We are the change the world needs, and we're becoming it. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or give this podcast a 5-star review. I'd appreciate it so much. And if you'd like to get practical and work with me more closely on boundaries, you can come visit me at boundaried.com. That's boundaried with a D.com for amazing resources. Because this is how we do it. One action at a time. We are moving into our power. and I'm so proud to be in this movement with you.